on the track.
Yeah, what's up, everybody? This is Case Study QB, and we are the Political Junkies back at it again. And I'm excited to have somebody that is not, of our same ideology on the show for the very first time. For the very first time, we got our man Lambda Man out of the chat from last week, and he's going to give us a different perspective. So I'm very interested to see how the show goes, to see the different perspectives on different topics. No filter. We always want to keep it PG for the family, no cursing and stuff, but we want no filter on your opinions. So we're going to see how this goes. So let me go around the horn as we get the show started. Dave, how you doing, buddy?
I am doing well. How are you?
Excellent. I'm so happy to have you on the show for the second time in a row. Yeah. Lambda Man, for the first time, what's going on, buddy?
Pretty good. I'm a Rhino, for all those of you that are wondering. That's me.
You're a Republican in name only?
Yes.
I heard you said you told me to call you the filthy moderate. Can you?
Yeah, nobody likes moderates in America. You can't pick the both of good sides. You got to be like, oh, I'm this side, oh, I'm that side. Then you get people. It's very divisive, this topic, and I think that we should, at the end of the day, we're all American, right? So.
All right. So we'll see where the ideology falls on certain topics. John, how you doing, buddy?
Happy to attend today's circuit.
All right. Big Pun, what's going on, buddy?
What is up? What's going on? Good to be here. Thank you, Lambda Man, for joining us. Let's get it on. Let's go.
Thank you for the invite.
And then Bidone, thank you. We missed you last week. Welcome back, buddy.
Thank you. I'm here so I don't get fined.
That's right. Don't get fined. All right. So the first topic.
I'll say quick disclaimer, right? Not to like dox you, Lambda Man, but you are in Massachusetts where marijuana is legal.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So there's no problem with that as long as you don't start acting too crazy. But I think you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Let's get the show.
Are you new here? Like, who are you?
All right, let's get this show started with the first clip.
Let's go.
Here we go.
For the Democratic Party to be a majority, not be a party of political purity.
But you guys can't hear it, but I can't. I couldn't even. It's not coming off.
I heard something. Yeah, I heard.
Democratic senators. We're going to need to win states
so
like
maybe
Pennsylvania.
It's just me.
We're going to need to win states like Wisconsin.
I'm going to start it over just in case.
For the majority party, we cannot be a party of political purity. And we cannot have a checklist and expect Democrats in every single state to look like a Democrat from the most liberal district in New York. In the presidential primary, we saw this sort of rush to the left. And a Democrat in West Virginia is going to look different from a Democrat in New York and California and Ohio. And to get more Democratic senators, we're going to need to win states like Pennsylvania. We're going to need to win states like Wisconsin. We're going to need to win states like Ohio. And to win those states, we're going to have to understand that the Democratic candidates are going to be candidates who reflect the values of people in their state and not every ideological group in Washington.
And yet in the time that we've been in Washington, I don't know if there's been anything more endangered. Well, perhaps, moderate Republicans than say blue dog Democrats.
Right.
Especially on this issue of abortion, which Democrats want to use to motivate their base, to paint Republicans as extremists. Is there room for anti-abortion Democrats in the tent?
Well, we still have, I think now there's not a single pro-choice Republican in Congress. There are two in the Senate. In terms of Democrats, it's getting smaller and smaller. But I do think that we need to have a big tent and be a big tent party and understand people. The abortion issue is a tough one, and that people have complex views on most people are in the 10% that says abortion should be in all cases. Most people are not in the 10% that say to shout our abortions. And we need to give room and space to.
All right. Let me take that off. Boom. All right. So I see they got the twisted lips up already. Yeah, tell me what you think about this. This is an ex-Buttigieg advisor.
Oh, I
And
remember
talking about how
listening.
we need to have a big tent and a big tent party day. What you think about that?
No, I remember her, and in fairness to her, she's very crafty at what she does. What I dislike about this statement is not that there isn't a morsel of truth. Like, there is actually a morsel of truth to what she's saying, that being a purist in the sense can be detrimental, because not everyone is with us on some of the cultural issues yet, but we should never, take a backseat to fighting for those. But what I don't like about this is that it gives an excuse for Democrats to actually just hide behind corporate backing. And that's not what she's talking about. Like, she's not getting at the fact that we're not upset that people don't agree with every issue. We're upset at the overwhelming influence of corporate money on these politicians' decisions that they make. So candidates like the one that she represented in the presidential campaign, who was getting so much money from the health insurance industry that it was no surprise that they had no interest in getting rid of what's essentially just a mafia middleman in terms of the health insurance industry. And it's no surprise that people like Joe Manchin, who just so happens to have investments into things like coal, et cetera, have no interest in promoting anything type of green economy. So until she's ready to make that distinction, I felt like what she did was very, very, very weaselly, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. Let me go to Lambda Man. I want to get you what you think about this big tent.
I mean, you were right in being like to not label people extremists, because you know where else they have moral police? In Saudi Arabia, and both sides like to think that they're the moral police of America as far as what's right and what's wrong. Like, you can write policy without being the moral police, and in this case, they're both being that about abortion, about foreign policy, immigration, benefits, the green energy stuff. I think that's a meme right now at the moment, because no one's willing to change their lifestyle. That's another conversation. So she was right in that, not to cast people as extremists, because just like there's extremists in the right, there's leftist extremists as well. And until people are ready to acknowledge that, then we're not going to have any collaboration or consensus. So.
Okay, the only thing I'm going to say about the extremists on the left and on the right, the difference is the extremists, with the so-called extremists on the left, we want Medicare for all. We want universal child care for everyone. We want UBI for everybody. Like, the things that we want is actually things that, if you poll a lot of them, is actually popular in the country, versus
that's
the
not
extreme
fair.
right. Wait, hold on. Except the extreme right, they want things that is not popular in the country. Which, go ahead, Lambda Man.
When they say extreme right, they mean the Nazis, KKK.
Exactly.
Like,
So,
but that's a stereotype, and that's like a boogie monster. Like, people are so simple nowadays. But what about the left? We got they forgot the left was Hitler in Germany. Like that was the left, the brown shirts and all that.
wait,
Yeah.
that was the left?
Yes.
Hitler in Germany was the left?
The brown youth, socialists, like Russia, Soviet Russia. You don't know about that? That was a socialist regime, right? That's the extreme. So just like there's extreme to the right, there's extreme to the left. So it's like, why can't we say that both sides?
You're the first person I've ever heard called that the left. I've never
It's
heard
in their
that.
freaking names. The Nazi socialist
You surprised
party.
why?
Say it again, John.
Let me get.
He's like, you're the first person that said that. I'm like, you're surprised why? You're gonna hear a lot of first.
You'll hear what Big Pun got to say on this.
You're gonna hear a lot of first
That's
tonight.
the thing. Being John, you're gonna hear the same thing. So maybe open up your ears sometimes.
No,
Go ahead, Big Pun.
To me, again, polarization, right? So this thing where, again, so aside from what Letterman was just talking about, well, I think that the boogeyman, when we talk about extreme left, is always, you want all those things, but you don't have a realistic way of actually getting it. That's the right's position, right? Like, I think that, okay, you want all those things, and then, yeah, we can agree that people should be covered, but how are we going to get there? And I think that there's a lot of those voices on both sides, and until we get to a point where we can actually listen to those voices and then have a solution to a practical solution to what we all want, if that's what we all want, then we're always going to be this, right? We're always going to think, yeah, oh, those are the crazy Nazis. These are the crazy guys that just want to protest and not solve anything. And I think that we're more of the middle than we are the extremes. But we have to listen to those voices. We're not going to get anywhere. And you actually have to speak to that. You know, there's some validity in having healthcare for all. There's some validity in, all that other stuff. But how are we going to get there? That's another thing. You know.
Can I say in response to that? Yeah, how many people died when BLM was protesting nationwide? How many people died? They're also quick to say, oh, January 6th, which was one day, and even then, that was a shady ass event. So if you believe that, but I digress.
Well, answer that question. How many people did die?
People were acting a fool nationwide. Mad people lost their lives, and nobody talks about those bodies. No one can even name one body that died. So it's like, it's
so how many people?
Like the energy that I get from the left, like, oh my God, January 6th, but they were burning down DC just as much, if not more, every other town in America. Like, I'm supposed to ignore that? Really?
So how many people did die during the BLM?
There was at least like 10. Let me come back to me. I'm gonna check my sources.
Okay.
There was at least within the past, like, all that nonsense that was going on.
All right, let me get Dave.
I would like to argue that I don't think anyone necessarily is in favor of anyone losing their lives. I mean, that's kind of antithetical, especially to what
Look at Twitter.
The left and the right is supposed to be standing for. Of course, there's always. I mean, Twitter isn't representative of the actual
just
human consciousness. It's just a part. It's a part of it. But I will say that when it comes to things like January 6th or the BLM protests, I think what's important to remember is that, unfortunately, just like there were people who were maybe upset about the outcome of the election, they did not also participate in an extremist viewpoint of it when it comes to doing the protest and all of that stuff on January 6th. And I think that the same can be said. Hold on 1 second, because I want to finish. The same thing that could be said about Black Lives Matter. The overwhelming percentage of the Black Lives Matter movements were peaceful. So it's not really representative to say that, oh my God, 10 people died, which is atrocious. That's terrible. I don't think it's fair to caricaturize an entire movement based on the actions of terrible people who many times were not actually affiliated with with the official chapters of the BLM movement. So I think it's important to put things into perspective, just like I think it's important to do the same thing with January 6th and quote unquote the Republican Party. Because the people, I often feel like, while I might substantively disagree with a lot of Republican stances on policy, I do like to believe that most people on that party as well were horrified by those actions because they're being associated with things that maybe they didn't agree with.
King Hernandez said, last time I checked, no one in the far left storming government buildings. The Black Panthers did just that. Look this up. It was like in the 70s or 60s.
But I think it's important because something you brought up too was like, that's not I think it's ahistorical to say as if like, oh my God, burning buildings, etc. Is this new wave in America? Like the American government bombed places like Tulsa and hundreds of other places in America. We actually had the Boston Tea Party. As part of our inherent in our revolution is property destruction. Whether you agree with it or not, I think it's sort of weird that people use that as the benchmark of like, oh, it's a legitimate or illegitimate,
Everybody got dirty laundry. That's all I'm saying. Both sides got dirty laundry. It's easy to point.
Hold on 1 second. I just want to correct you on the Black Panther because I did a lot of research on Black Panthers in one point, and they didn't storm the government. They went into the capital of California, and they had guns, which was legal. They had open. At the time, it was legal to have open carry, and they did it peacefully. They didn't go in there shooting anybody, threatening anybody.
No one shot. The only person that shot was their side.
Who shot on their side? Who?
January 6th was like the bourgeoisie security. So.
Okay, January 6th you're talking about. Okay. All right, let's.
Well, that's why we fight against police
we
brutality,
hit this up.
so it's important.
Let's move on to. I got another.
I was an officer, I believe.
That's kind of in this vein. So I'm gonna play this video from the Bill Maher show.
Oh, nice.
1 moment.
Yeah.
Let me bring this up. Boom, boom, boom. All right.
Joe Biden is not a radical. I mean, he's just not. And he was put forward as a Democratic nominee precisely because
he bends into the radical.
He has been, yes. And I think that's part of what's been a problem from his president is that he's raised these expectations by, saying, yeah, let's do all this $2 trillion bill.
Social media makes all the difference, though. And I think that there's a possibility that social media could create a Führer, a united group of people constantly whipped up to stay together who were actually in this middle. It would be a matter of branding, but maybe those forces that, for example, kept PreK as a marginal figure could actually make a difference this time because of what Twitter in particular is like. It really creates a whole new world. It would depend on the branding and the charisma. But I can imagine that maybe it would be different this time because of these things in our pockets and the way it unites groups together. It can create a new group, in other words.
Well, I think what would happen, my prediction, is you could have it like a sensible middle party. And it would then, what would happen is it would force the Democrats to go back to being the sensible middle party. And they would, because they would see that's where, you know, Biden reminds me of some grandfather, and when AOC and the woke people come into his office, and he just goes along. He doesn't really understand it. It's like, Grandpa, can we have money to go play Fortnite? And he's like, just take, I don't know what Fortnite is. I don't know what TikTok is. Just get out of my hair, you know. And that's really okay.
All right, so I'm going to go to John first, but real quick, I want to give a shout out to the people in chat: Pookie Wood, Ware Pilgrim, Holly Horn. Thank you so much for coming through. Erica, Miguel H. Just want to get Mike Bunch, and I saw somebody else that I thought it was kind of new that I never saw before. If I see you, I'll definitely shout you out again. But John, what do you think about? We need another party that's more center than the Democrat Party.
Right. Yeah. That's exactly what I think. I was like, all right, we're not listening to one clown tonight. We're listening to multiple clowns. Like, this guy is a mess, man. Like, he's like, oh, he's bending to the radical left. But they don't say like what Biden has done that's bending to the left. Like I'm still waiting for a list of which they will say like, you know, Biden bent to the radical left and he did X, Y, and Z, and they have a list of things that he actually has done that is for the left. Like I'm still waiting. So these people go out there, they just make all these claims.
Has the FBI busted Antifa at all? No, I don't think so. Has the IRS audited them like they would audit all the far right groups? No, they haven't. So
well, actually, they just got extra funding in the bill for the IRS. So I'm really excited to see what people get audited and what money could be collected on people not paying their actual taxes.
Oh, and Kay Hernandez, that's the other person in the chat I want to give a shout out to. But my opinion on this basically is we have here Bill Maher, who's in his bubble. That's the most obvious thing in the world. This dude is in the Hollywood bubble. And it's crazy to me how he pretty much was saying very favorable things to Bernie Sanders, you know, when he ran the first time. And somehow somebody switched something in his brain that he went for Amy Klobuchar, I believe. He was supporting her the other time in 2016. And I just don't understand how anyone can't see that the current Democratic Party is serving the corporatists, not serving the people, not serving the left, as he's saying that Joe Biden is in control, you know, the left is controlling Joe Biden. Lambda Man, would you agree that Biden is not being controlled by the progressive left, people that like us would want to see him do more things?
The AOC Omar types, I forgot her last name, Omar, whatever. The other lady,
Ilhan Omar.
Yeah, her. You know, that's like they just the loud one. They think that they're like representing the movement, but that's a clique. That's a different Democrat clique, in my opinion. The Dems are still bought by Wall Street and China, so I don't know why Pelosi's trying to make it like a big deal with Taiwan now. But I digress. So I think that they're still just like the Republicans are bending over backwards for Wall Street because they're the first one to say, "Oh, transparency," yet they're voting against transparency during all these like financial policy meetings and votes. Like Elizabeth Warren talking about she's always against Wall Street. I haven't heard shit from her all this time. Like, what are you doing? And the freaking Federal Reserve is worthless as hell. But
All right, let me go to Dave. Let me go to Dave now. Go ahead,
Well,
Dave.
to answer your question about Elizabeth Warren, because I have to give credit where it's due, because I was shocked. They did include her 15% minimum corporate tax rate on corporations that make over $1 billion. So I'm interested to see if that'll actually pass through. But what I wanted to address was the video. And for me, I think what gets lost in normie dim spaces is that when Democrats talk like this and they say, we need to moderate claims and blah, 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 what they're really saying is that we are far right economically, but we're socially accepting, which honestly should be what the Republican Party is at this point. But unfortunately, because the Democrats, after the third way, the institution of the third way issue and how they ran with Bill Clinton, it just pushed the left farther and farther to the right, to the point that the Republicans have to go off a cliff because they're so pushed. They're already backed up. The Dems are in their space now. They're occupying their space, so the only place they can go is farther right. So what we really need from a party is not a moderate, because to be completely honest, 90% of the major things that are being proposed are international. I consider myself an international centrist. They are moderate policies. What we need is an economic left policy that puts class-based issues at the forefront, while also not ignoring the needs of marginalized groups, as well as being more socially accepting, but they lead with the economic things that actually combine the biggest coalition. That's the actual Big Tent that we want to aim for, but they have no interest in doing that because that challenges their donor base.
Yeah, preach. You just dropped the mic on that one. Wait, for anyone else who wants to jump in on this before we move on?
No, I just want to say it's BS. I don't think that he's not in there. He's not in. Oh my God, let me bend over backwards for AOC and Omar Ilhan. They're not doing that. Those guys don't want to even hear from them. They want to reject those folks. When the time comes, they'll listen to their craziness. They'll be like, oh, but it's their far left agenda. They'll say it themselves. They're doing the same thing. So they're the same people. It's all bogus.
And one more point real quick. It's just, this is why, like, when we lose, right, they go and blame the left. So during election year, all you do, you copy and paste the playbook from last year, the year before, and the year before that. And it's constantly like, oh, hey, it's your fault. Hey, it's your fault the party's going there. But hey, by the way, vote for us because we are the solution. And then they're like, you know what, screw you. I'm tired of you spitting in my face, so I'm going to vote for a third party, or I'm just not going to vote at all. And it's like, well, if people would have voted for us, we wouldn't gotten Trump. If people wouldn't gotten this, like, what did you do to get people to go and vote for you? They're absolutely nothing. So it's no longer, the Democratic Party needs to understand that just because you're Latino, you're going to have to vote for them. Or just because you're Black, you have to vote for them. You have to give people something to vote for. And we've been here. Obama said he was going to do something. He didn't do it. When it comes to the Latino population, Obama, we always said it was crazy when it came to immigration, and everybody else, didn't do it. So we are tired of keep saying like, oh, just vote for us because you're Latino, just vote for us, or because you're Black, just vote for us. So that party, that talking points is losing strategy. They're going to continue to lose, but they don't care because to them, they always go the blaming game. They never take accountability for their actions.
All right, Lambda Man, last point, then we're going to move on.
I just want to say that he was the first one to put kids on cages, but then when Trump continued the policy, that's when the media all of a sudden, then everybody else wanted to care. But when Obama was doing it, it was okay because, first Black president. But
well, the leftists, we cared. The liberals didn't care, but the leftists cared.
100%
didn't care. CNN didn't care.
We're still mad at Biden.
He was bombing 7 countries too. We know that. Let's keep it real. I mean, that's what he was. He was the same as the rest of the dudes. I get it.
I'm going to bring in the first no-call zone for a minute, so let me. Yeah, all right. It's been a minute since I played that graphic. So the no-call zone that I want to start off with, because we got another one too, it's talking about the lottery. And my question, we had a lotto that went to 1.28 billion. Now somebody won it, and they had to pay tax. What's up? It went to 1.38.
Yeah, because the last day I think it went over the 1.2. But anyway, go ahead. Never mind.
So the first thing, there's a couple directions we could go with this conversation, but the first one I want to do. Does everyone agree that the winner should have paid taxes in the it cost the taxes was $433 million in taxes, which is like a little bit around half taxes.
No.
Gotta pay to play.
He got 433
Hold
after
on.
taxes, so he paid 800. What was that? Right? He got.
No, that's what this says. It says winner of the 1.28 billion lotto gets $433 million after tax.
After tax, that's what he gets.
Is this if they take the annuity or if they go ahead and take the tax, the
one-time
lump
payment?
sum?
That's the lump sum.
Right,
That's
because that's what I'm saying. Because I think that what happens is with the 1.28, is an annuity. It's for the rest of your life, and whatever it is, they pay you out. If you take a hit, if you take the cash. So the argument is, are you going to take? Are they going to take tax on the cash you take if you take the hit anyway? So that's what I'm saying.
Well, hold on. Well, from what I was understanding, we're watching economists break it down. Taking the lump sum is actually the smarter option because if you invest it, if your money's worth more, the annuity, your money devalues as time goes by. But yes, you will essentially get
Biden's America.
2.8. Well, that's been the lottery rules for forever.
But that's the lottery rules.
I feel like I do agree that they should be taxed. I do think that the tax rate is outrageous, and this is why I say this because the majority of people who are actually playing this are everyday common people. But the problem that I have is that there's no ideological consistency because when it comes to wealthy people making billions and billions of dollars, they're paying essentially little to nothing in terms of a percentage wise. So to take almost 60% of this person's earnings to me is like asinine. But should they pay taxes? Yes. Should it be 800 million of it? No. Could they still live off the 400 million? Absolutely. But not crying tears. But I do.
I'm interested in how they spend it, the taxes, because that's a big ass influx of capital right there. So I'm interested in how they're going to spend that.
All right, here's the second part of it. Okay, Big Pun, you want something?
Go ahead. No.
Here's the second part of this, part two to this no cause zone. I was thinking the whole time when I heard like, wow, we have a lotto that actually hit $1 billion. Now it made sense that it even accelerated because it went to $1.25 billion of a billion, and I can understand because even the average person, even to me that I hardly ever played a lotto, that it kind of like, should I buy a little ticket? So people who never paid a lotto might just say, hey, let me just jump in here real quick. So that explains why it even accelerated probably even quicker or more. But I was thinking, why don't they make, let's say the Powerball, I don't know exactly what it is, but let's say it's 12 numbers that you have to pick from. Since it hits $1 billion, why don't we make it a little easier to win? Like put it at 6 and then allow for 100 people to win $1 million or 1,000 people to win $1 million. And that kind of disperse the wealth more than, to me, when I first heard this, is like, wow, this is kind of funneling, making the 1%, even greater, making the wealth disparity even greater by doing this type of putting all this wealth into the hands of one person. What do you guys think about? I see Big Pun shaking his head. What do you think about that?
All right, so like they was pointing out, I think that the one thing that I think that people miss about the lottery is that it preys on the poor. This is basically a really messed up situation, right? They're putting out money, they're going, but it's for education and all that. I don't know. I really would like to see the spreadsheet where how the money gets dispersed for schools. I really would like to see that. I haven't seen it. But again, it inherently preys on folks that are broke. You go there, you have these lofty dreams. And a lot of lottery winners, and it's funny how Landerman was talking about how you invested, because a lot of lottery winners have to get educated on, once they win, on what to do with it, because most of them go broke. If you don't have any financial acumen for $20,000 a year, you won't have it for 1.2. So the thing is, you will go ahead, it'll mess you up. But yeah, should you pay tax? Of course. The house always wins, bro. That's just the way it works. This is gambling. So you go to a casino, you put down money at a roulette table, they're gonna rake their take. That's the way it works. So,
there's also like studies out there, like it's a high percentage, like 30-40% of people that win the lotto actually end up being broke again. So,
it's a very high percentage.
It's a very high percentage, some crazy percentage of that, because they want to go in, they go and buy a $20 million house, not knowing that you got to maintain the house, you got to pay taxes on the house, you got to furnish the house. Then you go buy, 3 or 4 Ferraris with a Lamborghini and stuff, and you go and spend all this money, and next thing you know, you're like, wait, I'm broke.
I wish there was mandatory business consultation. I know some people might think that's like,
no, I agree.
You know, it's like cheating them like a child, but it's not intended. But I think like you should at least have 5 financial planner consultations before you get a large percentage of that money.
Nah, I totally agree with that. All right, let me go on to this other clip, and we're gonna. I don't want to say this. We're having a little fun here because I wouldn't want to be this kid. I don't think I need sound.
Oh boy.
Start it over. So this is a footage of a 3-year-old Germany kid back in the day. I mean, how sad is this? This remind me of, I think did we talk about this last week where the KFC or there was some no, was it KFC or
no.
A car?
It was Hyundai.
Yeah, that they were hiring younger kids to run. So look at this kid, 3 years old. And it's like so sad. Look, it showed his face and they're like, "Hey, smile for the camera. Come on."
And his teeth, you can see they didn't even have dental care. It's so sad.
These are absolutely sad. I thought that this.
I mean, that's what
the 1930s.
Has no more.
Go ahead, Lamb the Man. How you feel about child labor?
I mean, obviously, everybody should be against it, but in the gross extreme form of capitalism, profits over anything. So of course, you're gonna put a little kid to work. That's right. So
Yep.
That's why we can destroy environments and nations worldwide, just so that girls can have their Gucci bags. But I digress.
Here's a picture that I want to show real quick. This is the safety standards in 1965.
Come on, man.
Can we just give Ralph Nader a shout out? Like, I don't understand.
I'm saying,
like, people was just raw dogging it.
I mean, they seem to have more fun.
Wow.
So this remind me of I watched a video of Singapore recently, and I'll just this, and this is their right. I'm just gonna play it real quick, and you can see there's guardrails here. Like if you go to a New York subway, a certain amount of people that die from falling on the tracks and getting hit by the train. There's no guardrails. I mean, I can just imagine other tourists coming to our subway and they're like hugging the middle of the platform because they're not used to, no guardrails being there. But that's what this video picture right here reminded me of. Like, this is the safety standards in.
Is that where the mom hand comes from? Like when your mom stretches her hand out in the car, because mama had her hand over her.
Right. That's gonna protect you.
Oh man, I wonder what things today that we're going to look at, like maybe 20 years from now, that's happening right now. That people are like, man, those people do that. Like, I could imagine us fixing the subway system to actually protect people from falling on the tracks.
Capitalism. They're gonna look at us like, oh wow,
you guys are crazy. Yeah, I mean that happened years ago in the New York City subway system. There was subways that they came out that did not have the gates in between the cars, and they had to go ahead and weld them in because folks that were blind or whatever, they just walk in like it was the actual train and then they get trimmed. So yeah, there's a lot of places that have safety measures that will listen. I mean, just remember, I remember back in the days I rode around in a car that had lap belts, just lap belts. The 3-point seat belt was like, I'm saying so.
I saw a video where the cops did actually a great job of there was a not a homeless person, a blind person on the subway, and he fell on the tracks by accident because he couldn't see. And luckily people jumped in. I believe also a cop jumped in to help him get up before the train, which was coming soon, and they were able to save him, thankfully. So, all right, I got a clip that I'm gonna play from you that I freshly cut it today. We're going to discuss this, and then I've got a no-cow zone that we're going to bring up. So here we go. I'm curious to know what Lamb the Man thinks about this subject. I think we might find some agreement here.
Right. Here we go.
Collateral damage, killing family members, other associates, a challenge probably overdone, in my view. That we get a target of such danger to the American people. those who are associated with them have a lesser degree of protection, in my view, than would be the unfortunate death of those children in Kabul, just as we pulled out. So they have to decide, what are we going to accept and collateral damage, and then they executed the process. And these remotely planned vehicles, I don't know, the Air Force flies Nevada. So you got a 19-year-old airman and a lieutenant colonel sitting next to him. I've been there, and they're piloting a lethal vehicle 7,000 miles away. And they've got incredible clarity, generally speaking, to what they're doing. More so than 2 o'clock in the morning with a JSOC operative coming down a, windswept mountainside in blinding sleet. So normally these operations are extremely, exquisitely targeted and get the person they're after and don't kill other people.
All right. Talking about wars, and recently the top Al Qaeda died today. They got him today. I personally am very big, don't trust the intelligence agency about anything, because we saw after when we were getting people out of Afghanistan, we saw how they said they're going to get the person, that there was a bomb strike that happened, and it turned out to be a person that wasn't a terrorist, and they killed him and his kids. He was pulling up to his house, and all his kids was coming out like they normally do to daddy, and they blew all of them up. And here we have this journal talking about, how precise and how accurate, and how, there's not a lot of collateral damage. I don't believe you. I need receipts. What you guys think?
Well, you want receipts on drone strikes? Because they go on all the time.
They go on all the time. Yeah.
They go on all the time. They're only going to tell you about the top guys. And we're supposed to believe it, and it is what it is. I remember when they just, I think it was January, they killed Soleimani, I think 2020. And that was like, we had to stop an attack. These are the things we're led to believe that this is it. But don't think that these drone strikes are the only ones that happen daily. They happen.
The reaction was way different, because when Trump did it, it was, oh no, he's declaring World War III against Iran, blah, blah, blah. But now that Biden...
That was a big deal.
Now
that was a huge deal.
That was a big deal. I don't know what news sources were your focus at the time, but I definitely remember, at least in the spaces that I inhabit,
definitely agree.
Because there should be a level of consistency. Like, at the end of the day, I don't care if Biden, Trump, Obama, Clinton, Bush did it. If you're bombing people without justifiable cause, it's like we were in a war through 3 presidents almost. Through 3 presidents unjustifiably. It's wrong.
Everybody.
And
100%.
I think that to me, the best sign of your values is when you're able to call them out, even when it's quote unquote people that's supposed to be on your quote unquote team. And I think with drone striking, I can't really speak to the Al Qaeda thing because I don't really know a lot, just being honest about this situation. But what I will say is that the fact that we have gotten to the point where it's a video game. We're killing people like we kill them in a video game. And I think what it does is it further desensitizes us to the actual cost. Like, we call it collateral damage. And I'm like, no, it's the killing of it. You're killing other people. Like, calling it collateral damage makes it just sound like, if we raise the temperature 2 degrees, we might kill a plant or something. Like, you're literally stopping people's lives, and then you wonder why people become radicalized and hate America. Is because we're consistently bombing other countries. We're very blessed in the fact that we have not had many attacks on homegrown soil. But what we do to other countries like Laos, et cetera, is astronomically unthinkable. And you wonder why people hate us. All of it's not unjustified, because we do things like this and just go, we meant to get that guy, but it was the wrong guy. Our bad.
Yeah. Nah, 100%. I think about where's due process, right? We go to these other countries and we're just judge and jury. Oh, you're around this person that's a bad person. We're going to kill you, and whoever is around you, be damned. It reminds everything that we do around the world comes home at some point. And I just think about it being a matter of time. Matter of fact, there was one occasion when there was a person I remember that, I don't know if he did a shooting or a robbery, but he was hiding in the area, and they sent a little drone, like a little robot,
Mm-hmm.
to him, and we're thinking like, okay, it's going to try to identify him or da. No, they sent the robot there, and then they blew up the robot, killing the guy too. That's kind of like a drone, but this happened in the United States, and all you need is little steps to get to the point where we're having drones over our heads, and they're doing God knows what, you know.
Well, Case, how do you balance that? Because this is always where the pushback I hear is, well, it keeps your soldiers safer because they're not having to be in the front line, which there's a justifiable argument for. But where would you deem that balance at? How do you balance that out?
No, that's a good question. Do you send people? My thing is, we don't declare war anymore. We do all these war actions around the world.
We haven't.
And we don't go through the proper channels, which is Congress, the House, to declare war, and then you go and do what you have to do. Back when I was a Ron Paul supporter, I remember he talked about when the attack 9/11 happened, and we identified bin Laden as the person who did it. He said we should have used basically put a bounty on bin Laden's head, and that's constitutional. I forgot what he cited exactly. We used to do it to pirates back in the day, and you could use that same law to go after bin Laden, put a big bounty on his head. And you telling me for like $10 billion, which we would have saved a ton of dollars. Now, if we'd have just put like if we'd have put $50 billion on bin Laden's head, we would have saved what, like $6 trillion of us going to perpetual war to this day, just going to war to war to war. What you think, Big Pun?
Here's the biggest problem with the drones, and if it was used as a scalpel, it's great, but it's not. I don't get fooled by that, and that's the big issue. All you have to do is say, well, there was an Al Qaeda operative there, so that's why we had to blow up this whatever it is. And believe me, if it's a wedding, they're going to drop the bomb on the wedding. You do know that, right? And everybody's going to get killed as long as we got the guy that we had to get. That's the bullshit. And then to me, that's the thing that, you know, again, yeah, we don't want boots on the ground. We don't want to go ahead and put people in harm's way. But at the same time, this is war crime crap. It's just straight up. It's war crime crap from the air. And you know, again, I it's very easy for them to say, oh, Al Qaeda, and everybody goes, well, I guess they deserved it. And it's like, not everybody there did, but you know.
Yeah, so yeah. All right. If there's no last words, we're going to move on to the Biden agenda. All right. So let me bring up this. Go ahead, Bendo.
So interesting you bring this up, right? Because I was seeing, I don't know whether it was on TikTok or Twitter, right? So, some interesting comments on recruiting practices from the Army based on their connection to esports teams.
Correct.
And glorifying, I don't say glorifying, maybe that's the wrong word, but, you know, presenting themselves in all these gaming spaces, startups, as recruitment practices to then later on try to recruit them, right? So, i.e., drone pilots, right? These kids with their hand-eye coordination, and the topic really was more or less like, are these unpractical recruiting practices? Because that means you're targeting kids now at a way younger age than, you know, recruiting, going to like a high school recruitment place.
Right.
So this is like an impromptu no-cow zone. I personally think that, they should not be allowed to recruit these kids the same way that we should. I think we ban liquor, or we should be banning liquor commercials, even though I've seen liquor
cigarettes.
commercials.
I think it's cigarettes.
Cigarettes have been banned. Yeah, cigarettes have been banned.
I see liquor commercials almost every time.
Yeah. we shouldn't be having liquor commercials. You don't see porn commercials, right? So there's certain things that we should not see advertisements on TV or in areas where kids can see. And I think this is
so they recruit and they say, if you're good at Call of Duty, you're good to join the Army, the military.
To some extent, right? They have esports
hand-eye coordination,
right? That you can follow, right? So people are like, oh, how do I join your esports team, right? It's very interesting, right? Because you wonder how much money is getting dumped into this, right? So they're paying people in the Army to sign up in competitions and play these games.
Yeah, pretty crazy. All right, so let's go on to the Biden agenda and see what's the latest on this going down with Joe Manchin and Chuck Schumer. Apparently have a deal, but now we're waiting on cinema board.
Welcome back. Democrats and the president need ahead of the midterms, and this week they could get one with a Senate vote on a bill brought back to the dead, I should say, by Senators Joe Manchin and Chuck Schumer. In it, climate provisions, health care changes, tax reforms. If passed, this would be the largest climate investment in U.S. history, aiming to slash 40% of greenhouse gas emissions by the year 2030. It includes tax credits for electric vehicles, along with home energy tax credits, and billions for clean energy manufacturing. In healthcare, for the first time, Medicare would have the power to negotiate the prices of certain medications. It would also include free vaccines for seniors. It would extend enhanced subsidies for the Affordable Care Act coverage for 3 years. On tax reform, the bill would impose a 15% minimum tax on the country's largest corporations, which could raise $313 billion over a decade, according to one analysis. It would also give the IRS more funding for enforcement. Now, it is worth noting here that the current corporate tax rate is 21%, but companies like Amazon have found various loopholes to get around it. For example, Amazon paid zero income tax in 2018. What's likely not included in this bill? A lot that many progressives had wanted, including universal pre-K, food aid for kids, paid family sick leave, and you can see so much more. Hearing benefits, affordable housing funding, college tuition assistance. That's likely left out of this bill. But whether the bill passes may boil down to one moderate lawmaker, Democratic Senator Kyrsten Sinema.
We good with that. I want to go through the main stuff, but you saw everything that they left out. First of all, we got to see how this happened. Was Joe Manchin finally? They said, Joe Manchin, here's the pen, here's the paper. Please go ahead and just write the bill, whatever bill you want. And then they went back and negotiated with certain things. But as you can see, Joe Manchin is not interested in all those. They said what? Pre-K, free pre-K, paid family leave, enhanced child tax credit, college tuition assistance, food aid for the kids, Medicare hearing benefits, affordable housing fund. Joe Manchin, you not for any of these things that you can make sure this was in the bill? Lambda man, I'm curious what you think, and I'm gonna go today. I think I saw you there. I can't hear you. I can't hear you, buddy. Take off yourself off your mute.
Oh, thank you, Jesus.
My bad.
There you go.
Yeah.
As far as West Virginia, I can't speak on West Virginia. I mean, I don't know what their people want as far as policy is concerned, but that's what people understand is like different populations want different things. So you can't get mad from New York or Florida about what West Virginia is doing if you guys have no like coal history or no like attachments to that, no like economic ties to that, let alone like cultural ties to that. But I digress. As far as like the stuff that they omitted, like what do you expect? How many times have they done that? At this point in the game, people are still like, "Oh my God, they omitted it." Of course they're gonna omit it. Like, why are y'all acting all surprised for? But
go ahead, Dave's next.
None of us are surprised. Like, listen, if nothing else, the Democrats are going to do is be pathetic. But what I realized is that I would like to actually address what you said, Lambda Man, which is actually in the very recent past, West Virginia actually was an economic populous state. It was actually a very solidly blue state given the labor and union leanings. However, when you have people like Joe Manchin climb in there, because they are socially more conservative compared to other states like New York and California. However, they are very aware of the economic destitution that they're in and the policies that would actually improve their well-being. Unfortunately, they're often not given a choice between that and something else. They're given the choice between only the culture issues and then nothing economically. And Joe Manchin consistently votes against the interests of the West Virginia population. But when you have a media sphere that's dominating, saying that everything we're trying to do is like some extreme version of things that's not actually happening, what else are they set to vote on? You know, I think Joe Manchin is a great example of like, you're really going to tell the people in West Virginia, which is literally one of the poorest states in the country, who is very deserving of better, that they can't have universal pre-K, or they have all these coal miners with health issues, but they don't deserve better health insurance. I think the problem is that one, people are often misled about what policies are. But then also you have people like him who prey on the fact that most people aren't digging into the weeds. Like there's not an echo chamber that most people in West Virginia are probably learning about the policies from. Like this lady, she casually said, oh, they just cut the pre-K. Oh, they just cut, leaving out the obvious thing, which is why. But you know.
Right.
I'd just like to mention real quick, and I'm going to go to a big pun, that a program in West Virginia partially rolled out while Joe Manchin was governor was to establish universal pre-K. So it's good for West Virginia, but it's not good for the rest of the country. Go ahead, big pun.
Trash.
Nah, real quick. I mean, they covered that very eloquently. We don't know. And then we got Chuck E. Cheese having like freaking secret meetings with him. And how do I know Chuck E. Cheese wasn't part of this whole cutting of it so it could happen? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I can't trust anything. So to me, yeah, bad situation. Or we're supposed to be really happy that Chuck went and had these secret meetings to revive this, and it's all bogus to me. So to me, that's whatever. But I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked.
100%.
Case, do you think that they should try what they did with the other bills recently, where they make people vote on them? Because I always say, like, hey, you guys don't agree with food for kids? You mean the family, the people who pro family, because allegedly leftists and Democrats don't believe in families, although they have them too. Like, you guys don't want to vote for that? Why not put it on the floor? Because I think it's very highlighting.
I mean, if it was up to me, and I'm going to go to John, if it was up to me, I would force the vote on several topics and just have single issues. I would have bills that consist of like 2-3 pages that anybody could read, and I'll put it up to vote, and I'm saying, okay, let's see which senators are against this. Go ahead, John.
That will happen where you have actually good leadership. His leadership, they in cahoot with one another. They're not going to put it up because they're not going to be like, that's what you always say, like, there was a vote, no Republican will ever vote for this. Put it up for vote, and have them go on the record saying no, right? Oh, you don't make the vote, the bill is going to fail anyways because we don't have enough vote. Put it up. So when you go in there and say, yeah, this senator, they don't think you deserve what you deserve. But no, let back up to the video itself. Like, again, like I think we talked about this in the past. President Manchin, right? Go, here's the pen. Here's, put in your own bill, and then we negotiate with you. Like, what is going on here? Like, why this guy has so much power? And I don't trust anything from that guy. Like, they want to go be like, oh, hey, elections coming, get us a win. Hey, be surprised. Like, they're going to do this whole like minimum 15%, but we're going to create all these loopholes that is not going to be actually minimum 15%. Or like they're going to talk about it, probably take that out. Like, I would love to see that bill even before it goes out to vote, and will be so many crazy things in there. Like, I'm sure there's going to be. I totally don't trust it.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot. I think that they're going to get rid of the Medicare negotiating for drug prices. There's no way the pharmaceutical lobby is going to allow that to stay in the bill. And unfortunately, Kristen Sinema hasn't said anything. So I think she's going to be the last line of defense against getting anything close to being good passed. And of course, the fossil fuel side of this bill is going to be horrible. But people do say, hey, it has a lot of green energy tax credits and money towards green energy. You're biting the bullet on this thing. What happened, Big Pro? What you just
I don't know. What do you mean? Yeah, exactly. I agree with John. I don't think that.
Yeah.
They're going to use cinema. They're going to use cinema as a again. But again, these people, there's nothing they can do. They don't have election coming up. 2024, they'll be like, oh, just vote me out. Like, I got nothing to lose. So,
So even Lamb the Man, a moderate like yourself, you would, if you were a senator, we got Senator Lamb the Man in Congress, would you vote for free pre-K?
Say that again?
Would you vote for free pre-K?
I mean, for residents, yeah. I feel like
everybody for the country.
Rather not, because if people are gonna try to see, that's the thing. You're gonna have conditions. You can't just like. You ever heard of Tragedy of the Commons? And that's my beef with leftists. Like, they're like so naive. But as far as
pay taxes but get no benefits.
What's the difference between a resident? Oh, so you're saying for no illegals or not?
Undocumented, my brother. Undocumented.
Not mistake. Like, people from New Hampshire come to Massachusetts. They work in Massachusetts, but they live in New Hampshire, so they're like getting off, freeloading off of Massachusetts. I'm trying to avoid the situation for like other states where they don't have those people coming to my state. Like, nah, stay over there in your state.
But
so, wait. But isn't it like New York and New Jersey, where if you work in New York but you live in New Jersey, you still have to pay tax for both? Like you pay, it flips.
I don't know how you arrange for y'all, but in between, because there's no sales tax in New Hampshire, but there is in Massachusetts. So they're coming here. So that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to avoid situations like that. Where
if you live in New Hampshire and you work in Massachusetts, you're paying 2 state tax. And if they actually go to Massachusetts, they buying stuff from you, which you're actually getting a sales tax from them.
They're getting
I'm sure you are traveling to New Hampshire to go buy stuff that has no sales tax.
Business in New Hampshire.
Well, I would like to argue that we, as Americans, we should be united and not fighting each other about who's going to actually get a benefit of education.
Well,
so my proposal would actually be federal funding of universal pre-K. Therefore, you don't have to worry about whether or not someone from New Hampshire is taken from Massachusetts, because guess what? When it comes to federal spending, it's not like state spending.
What about the person that has no kids? Are they getting a rebate?
Because the great thing about one, they don't need a rebate. I'm going to explain this because federal spending is not like state tax. Hold on, I actually want to finish this because this is important, because you asked the question. I want to be able to answer for the listeners as well. When it comes to state spending, that is not the same as currently we fund our schools through property taxes. I disagree with that. And so what I'm saying is that we should not be funding it through property taxes. It's because no child should have a worse education because one child won the birth lottery over them. I'm saying federal funds should be distributed to the states to fund education so everyone has a quality education. So therefore, when it comes to certain benefits like, oh, I don't have children, one, I'd like everyone to recognize that those same children that you don't have, the kids in your community, they grow up and they get jobs and they create the future that you'll eventually live in and support your system. But more importantly, the great thing about benefits is that not every person will benefit from every benefit. I am a single homosexual male. I am not married, so I don't benefit from certain tax benefits. However, am I mad at somebody else getting that benefit? No, because I know that there will be certain things that
I'm talking about scale though. You
just as beneficial. So I feel like anybody that looks at that situation, it's not a zero-sum game. Just because some children are benefiting with education, which does actually impact the quality of your life, doesn't mean that there aren't other benefits that maybe only you benefit from. We are a collective society. And again, federal spending is not taking away from anything from basic state spending. Your taxpayer dollars are not funding federal spending. Your tax dollars, essentially, when it comes to federal spending, they can create what they want as long as the material resources are there. Federal taxes are there to put the money out there and just take the money back out.
It's distributed equally, and some states take more.
Omar, Lambda Man, say your point over again. And by the way, he said it's okay for me to use his real name. Go ahead, Lambda Man.
I mean, we're talking about property tax, funding education, as it should be. I mean, it is what it is. When you live in a capitalist system, you're going to have a strata. You're going to have the lowers, the haves and have-nots. It is what it is.
Wait, did you say the lowers? Can you explain what that means?
The lower class, the middle class, the upper class.
So they deserve worse education because those
children. This is what it is, not whether they deserve or not. This is the nature of it.
The system is stacked against them. So
what we've decided to let it be. There's a difference between what it is and what
just like Democrats just crime run amok, right? Because this is how it is, right? But when states have crime as well, they have lower population. That argument doesn't apply. And when it has to do with shit like this, then that's when the argument applies. See, I mean, that's
a straw man argument because blue states are actually densely populated, which is a direct result of why they have higher crime rates. Because red states have crime as well; they just have fewer populations. Anytime that you have a mass of people and then terrible conditions, which is why I disagree with the fact that people should be treated crappily. When people are desperate and in large groups, they do crimes, which is terrible. But it's not just because they're blue. Republicans live there too.
If you don't make it out of the lower class and you want to blame the systemic this and that, that's on you. That's a crutch. People come here every day from different countries and make it just fine not knowing English. So don't spare me this whole the systemic boogeyman's keeping me down. Like
I used that word yet. That was you.
That's all the leftist freaking talking points for the past 10 years. So
you actually just brought it up yourself though when you said people are born into poverty. So I was like, the fact that someone can be born into a poverty in the richest countries in the world actually shows that it is a systemic problem, because if the country was actually the richest country in the world, no one should actually have to worry about being born into poverty. And that's actually the issue we're trying to address.
At the end of the day, I'm American first, Latino second. But in y'all world, it's Black American, I'm Latino American, I'm gay American, I'm Asian American. No, we're American first. Then all that. All of Democrats,
other people tell us that, but we actually say we're American
right now because y'all are trying to be not American. Y'all are as much of American as we are. Like, get over it. Y'all American, we're American, whether you like it or not.
Actually, my Americanism is why I'm advocating for these policies, because I actually believe as a birthright for being American, you deserve certain entitlements that ensure your success as a human being. You are actually bringing up the fact that people aren't deserving based on the lower status that they have as a quote unquote
I'm saying you have
that actually seems anti-patriotic.
Yeah, my family's born there. We made it just fine. So I'm not gonna rely on these excuses anymore. I don't enable that. I'm sorry.
I think we could probably discuss this and dig deeper, but let's move for the sake of the show is done actually at 9 p.m. And is it okay if we go into overtime? You guys got to run.
I don't mind. It's fine.
Give me 10 more minutes because there's two last things I want to discuss, right? Which is Jon Stewart for president, which was brought up in TMZ. I'm about to play the video, and then I'm going to do the last no-cow zone, and then we're going to head out of here. But I appreciate you guys, and even though I do not agree with what Lem the Man just said, I appreciate having a different opinion.
Absolutely. I wish we could have got deeper into some of the why behind those.
Yeah.
It only took him an hour.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Future got one vote from comedian Jeff Ross.
I'd vote for him.
You would?
I'd vote for him twice.
That's not voter fraud, Jeff. Once is enough. Now, just like 80 million more votes to go, John.
He was leaving Judy Kelly in the Hills. I talked to him about Jon Stewart on Capitol Hill yesterday. He slammed the GOP for blocking a bill for health care for veterans.
If this is America first, then America is
Now that's passion. But how does John go from funny man to serious and engaging so easily?
Because he cares.
Yeah.
Comedians feel pain more than most people.
They do.
That's our trait.
Jon Stewart said he would never run. But if he did, could he get the Democratic nomination?
Yes, he's the hero we need.
Just from this whole thing where are now taking politics.
He does feel passion of what goes on in our government. He backs it up.
That doesn't mean you can run the government.
You gotta stop getting so tough. You have gray hair coming in now, and you're 20.
No, he doesn't.
Yes, he does. Look right there. That's a gray hair.
There's like a couple strands. It's a sign of wisdom, I've been told.
You were lied to. So thanks, Jeff.
All right, lots of love.
Hey, John, think about it.
All right, so before I get you all think about Jon Stewart, and you're already up, so.
Crazy old man. I just want to say to Pookie, get a job then. America won't provide for its people, get a job. Like, the heck, you're not supposed to provide for
All right, hold on. We on a new topic, Lamb. All right, go ahead,
Makes sense. But yes, I think Jon Stewart is doing the Lord's work, and I'm proud of him, and it actually is exposing how these people, what they're saying and their values aren't in alignment, so I'm all in support of it.
100, big pun.
I mean, he speaks truth to power, man, and he's out there. He's yelling. He's telling. He was. Did you see him during the 9/11 things when he was trying to get the health care for all the first responders? I mean, this has been his thing for the longest. It's like the people that serve us, we do them the disservice, and he lets them know. It's like, so that's good.
I'm pretty sure he was pro-Iraq war though when it was prime time content for it to be saying Iraq war. He was totally promoting the Iraq war. So it's kind of
So what do you think, Lamb the Man? You think he should run for president, and would you vote for him?
Hell no. What? He's been a fucking talking mouthpiece for the mass media for past 15 years? Like, no, of course not. He's just this corporate.
Have you ever seen his show?
The freaking Democrats. No, never.
Have you seen his show?
Have you ever seen the show?
Yeah, I've seen the show. I've seen Jon Stewart, then the other one with the Colbert. This other guy from South Africa has it. It's all just freaking political spin doctoring, and everyone's like, "Oh, they're so progressive." It's a cable TV. Right. You can get your information from cable TV. If you have to turn a channel to it,
before I go to John,
I know it's for his favorite show.
I'm going to tease that I think I lean more towards Lamb the Man's side on this one. I might agree more with Lamb the Man. So let me go to John last, and then I'm going to go. Go ahead, John.
You can say your point.
Okay. All right. So my opinion on Jon Stewart, I think that he, for the most part, he does have a lot of left-leaning and agrees with the left. But I'm very wary of people not letting us know, or us not knowing where they stand on all the issues, hence for the creation of the People's Gauntlet. So peoplesgauntlet.com, an organization I created, and you could go check it out, which has basically ask and holds candidates accountable to let us know how they feel on all the mass issues out there, Medicare for all, reparations, et cetera, et cetera. And because I feel the same way about Jon Stewart that I would feel about Michelle Obama. You hear about people saying they want Michelle Obama to run. Now, Cynthia Nixon, people, when she ran for governor, saying, oh, here's another celebrity running for higher office. But the thing that I would support Cynthia Nixon was because she had a website and she let us know where she stand on a bulk of progressive issues. So I could kind of say, okay, I see where her ideology is. I'll let her, I would give her my vote. Jon Stewart, we know he's great on veteran issues, veteran getting their Medicare. I would say just go for Medicare for all, John. Let's just ask for Medicare for everybody, right? But I am not going to be picky. I appreciate him being an advocate for what, the burn pits is the latest thing that he's advocating for. So I really appreciate that. But I'm not somebody that would just jump on board for Jon Stewart for president right now, just yet.
But
Go ahead, Big Pun.
Funny enough, isn't this a red issue? First responders, right? America first and all this other stuff. Don't you want to treat those people well? It's weird that you say that, right? Because everybody goes, well, Jon Stewart's left. And I'm like, no, isn't this like, don't you like cops and firefighters and all these people that serve us in the military? Isn't that what this is? Why is it not something we all are agreeing with? Or maybe the people on the right. It's kind of dumb. But again, I'm weary of. By the way, I will agree with you and maybe Lemon on this because I'm weary of celebrity when it comes to politics. I'm weary of celebrity when it comes to politics. But like you say, I want to hear your thoughts on every issue before I even make a decision.
Tom Hanks is another one. I heard Michael Moore say, "Oh, we need Tom. We had Donald Trump, so we need Tom Hanks." I'm like, no, I have no clue. Well, how Tom Hanks feels on anything. Like, come on, guys. John, you have anything to add?
No, I heard you say Tom Hanks. I'm like, all right, then. Might as well man the man. Why don't you run for president?
Right.
I know, right? Just let anybody run. So I think you already said. So let's go to the last No Cow Zone discussion, and then we're going to end the show. Appreciate you guys. So I was thinking about, we talked about in the past, if we want candidates running for office or incumbents to have term limits, if they should have term limits, if they shouldn't run again after 2 terms, or et cetera, et cetera. And me personally, I'm against term limits because I think the voters should decide whether they want somebody to continue, even though we live in an era where it probably would be more beneficial to have term limits, to have a rotation that hopefully would get somebody good. But I'm afraid of the really good people like Bernie Sanders getting term limited out. But anyway, I was thinking about what if we did not allow for incumbents to campaign, right? So now, because they can't campaign, they can't have TV ads, they can't have a campaign manager, et cetera, now they're dependent on whatever they vote on, whatever they advocate for, to be good for the people, that it inherently causes the people to say, oh, that person did this for us, we want that person to continue in office, versus a challenger who can campaign and probably campaign and say, hey, this person is not doing this, this, and this. But this is the kicker. They have to debate. This is kind of forcing incumbents to say, hey, I want to say my piece on all the stuff that my challenger has been hitting me on. So I'm definitely going to go to the debate to say my piece because I can't campaign. So it would be great to have that. I think that would be a good thing to have in as a policy. What do you all think?
If I can go first.
Yeah.
I understand the sentiment of what you're saying, but I'll say why I disagree slightly. I 100% agree with the debate. I think everybody should be forced to debate. I think that there should be equal airtime for all participants. So this is where I would disagree. I don't think it's fair for them not to be able to promote that they're running, because we know just marketing wise, the more you see people and their ads, et cetera, the more likely that their people are able to name recognition, they're primed to vote for them when they get to the ballot box. So I think there should be an equal distribution for both candidates. So it's not, that bias isn't there, and you can run creative ads as you want, but then everybody, when they get to the debates, 3 debates, they have to be there. They can't just opt out. And I think it should be a more fair system so that money can't actually influence the outcome the way that we know it does right now.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah. You lost me where you said you were not for term limit, but I think, you know, we should definitely have federal funding election, take money out of politics. And I totally agree with, I think we should definitely have term limits. You know, there's a lot of people out there that they just sit there, they make this and just there to make money. You know, if you want to, like Robert said, the fastest way to become a millionaire is just go run into politics. So just how the president have term limits, the Congress should have term limits, the Supreme Court should have term limits, and there should be no difference, right? Why do we give a president an 8-year term limit and we don't give it to anyone else?
All right. Who? Any other last word? Matter of fact, I see Big Pun, you're shaking, and then we're gonna go to Lamb the Man, and then we're gonna end the show.
Agree with a lot of things. Agree with term limits. Agree with that. Agree with, you know, money out of politics. Agree with that. So I'm just shaking my head like yes. All
right.
I like your idea. I agree with Day. You have to debate. And but I don't know if it's completely fair to not have that infusion of just ads and all that, and just sit there and wait, and then all of a sudden it's like I got plenty to say at the debate, and it's like, you know, I don't know if that's a completely fair way to do that. Although, but I think it's interesting, but I don't know if it's completely fair.
Gotcha. Sounds good. Lamb the Man, get your last word on this, and then we'll end the show.
I mean, there's term limits within reason, obviously. And like, we shouldn't have. Yeah, I'm gonna say I'm an ageist. You know what? I don't think the elderly people should be out there driving. I don't think they should be out here passing policy, making us look like fools on stage, like Biden and Pelosi and all these other old farts. I'm sorry.
So what's the age limit?
And Trump.
Them two then. I would say 60. 60. There you go.
I would say 65. So I think I kind of agree with you on there. I think because 65 is the age of retirement, right?
Yeah. You get kind of like cranky, then, you know, Alzheimer and all that kicks in like that. So I feel like
at the end, I think you just become set in your ways. Like you become a salty old dude. You know, you don't want kids in your yard. You're yelling at people to go away. It just happens, right? And I think that they don't completely speak. I don't know if I brought this up before, but I was the one that said, you know, I believe in random license testing because there's too many people out there that shouldn't be behind the wheel, and you have to do random because you can't just bring in all the septuagenarians and be like, well, it's y'all that are the problem. I mean, you can't do that. So that's what I'm saying. It's got to be random like that. But yes, 65, 70, I'm good with that.
But wouldn't all of this be eliminated if we forced people to debate? Like Dianne Feinstein would not be able to get on stage for that 2-hour debate and actually do it given her condition. And that's not disrespect to her. But yeah, but I'm just saying, like, mentally and physically, she couldn't keep up, and that would be exposed in a debate.
That's a good point. Even though I've heard about like Donald Trump, they giving him Quaaludes, like certain drugs to like that. And even Biden, like that, will hold him over for like 2 hours, and then you can just check out after the debate.
If we have to do all this, you're too old to keep going. That's all I'm saying. I don't care who you are.
Yeah. Yo, thank you everybody for coming on the show this week. I want to give a shout out again to everybody in the chat: Kay Hernandez, Pookie Wood, Erica, PJ, Chris. Had Holly Horn was in the building.
David said he enjoyed it.
The love always. Thank you, David, for being here, and everybody else who was. Is just so many.
Brown upside down, John.
Much love, Edit. Lamb the Man. Thank you for coming on. You gave us a different perspective, you know, and definitely appreciate. This is a little experiment where we had somebody of a totally different ideology than everybody else,
Calvin?
and you know, much love. Thank you for behaving yourself as much as you could. And John, thank you for holding back as much as you could. Let me just show some the graphics, the Patreon, and the love always is here. Shanika Thompson, thank you so much for being a Patreon. Zachary Gustan, Akibasha Kita, PJ Chris is also here in the building in the chat. Thank you so much for being a Patreon. Deborah B, Nancy Vancher, thank you so much. And I'll go around the horn one last time. Dave, thank you for coming, buddy.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Am I supposed to like say something quickly or something? I don't know.
Is there any last comments as we head out of here?
Oh, I want to just leave y'all with an encouraging note. So as we saw earlier, you know, at one point, child labor was just the way of the world and how it works. And it took some people with righteous moral anger to change that. So I want to encourage people to go out there and create the world they want to see.
Awesome. Day for president. That's what I say. That's all day. Big pun.
Thank you, Case, for having the forum. Thank you, John, for coming through. Thank you, Dave, for coming back. Thank you, Lambda Man, for showing up. You know what, man? Listen, I'm happy that we're all here and we're all expressing ourselves, whatever it is what we're expressing. I think that we, again, I said this before when I invited Lambda Man on. I think we're going to agree on certain things that you don't think we're going to agree on. And I think there's a lot of things that we're not going to agree on. But we have to have these conversations. We have to respect each other, and we have to do this time to keep going forward. So, shout out to everybody. Thank you. Shout out to Kay Hernandez. That's my Kay. What's up, baby? And she says she lives for you, Dave. She's saying she lives for you, Dave.
Bless you. Thank you, Kay. Too kind. Awesome. Thank you.
All right, John.
And remember, if you're a resident, you're the only one that deserves to have stuff.
Y'all are trash.
All right, I'm going to give Lambda Man the last word. So let me bring in my man, Bendone.
I'm here.
Last words?
I'm here, so I don't get fined.
All right, Lambda Man.
Thanks for the invite. It was nice talking to y'all. I got really no beef. I accept all creeds and personalities here, unlike some people. But thanks for the invite. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you, Lambda. You were awesome. It was fun.
Right. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you were here with us, and we appreciate that. Thank you for coming through. See you next week, 8 o'clock. Much love to y'all. Be safe.